The main purpose of this class is to let the students discover their bodies in a more comfortable way. Movement is an instinct. Therefore, after the students experience the perception of space, they were randomly grouped to engage in various games in order to develop their abilities to move their bodies. Thus, through the interactions with one another, they will eventually find out that it is possible to cooperate with almost anyone. During the process here, the process of developing body states, students will feel that they may need to recognize their bodies a little more. Once they become familiar with the functional uses of their bodies, they actually would tend to be more precise when controlling their bodies or expressing themselves, and they can even exert more possibilities. Once the students understand the compositions of their bodies, they could begin to feel the weight of their bodies. That is to say, if the students know the importance of structural supports and lifting of the bodies, it would be easier for them to arrange the compositions of the movements. That's why we developed the conveyor belt game as a trust game. Finally, through the students' observations of their daily lives, once I assigned the topic of traveling, I hope they could notice that there were some animals, some plants, some images, and some live scenes. And finally, they encountered the concept of a building. Then they reconstructed these static images through their body movements, and let these still images become alive. For some students, if you want to teach them how to move, they may feel worried that they couldn't do it well, which results in an even greater restriction of their bodies and movements. But if you let them open up the boundaries of their bodies first and make them feel comfortable to move, meanwhile, you should consider their safety, I believe the students actually enjoy doing it. The way to relax their boundaries is to let them forget they're moving their bodies. Instinct. That is, they would be motivated by a stimulus, a task, or simply a desire to do so. Then it's natural for them to move their bodies spontaneously. At the same time, I think it's important for teachers to take good care of students' safety. So even if we are standing by their side during the process of practicing with them, be sure to choose first what the students are capable of doing physically, then let them do these movements. If you already know that these movements are dangerous, don't let them try. Usually, I think the concepts and thread of scaffolding are crucial for the course. That is to say, don't give too much instruction at the beginning. For example, if I want to play some physical games with my students today, I might not mention we are going to do some physical games. We would just start with the games, then let them take notice of the space and find partners. Even when they find their partners, at first we would not tell them what to do. They might just do a rock, paper, scissors game, or they might just count numbers. The purpose of counting is to construct their sense of rhythm. When you have a rhythmic sense, your body would develop something spontaneously. Then, with these developments in their bodies, I encourage them to explore the higher, the middle, and the lower parts of space, or to feel the ease and difficulty of the movements, and also the relationship between people and the space. Then, I think they would find it more interesting when they open up their senses. What's more is the relationship among people. They will learn, other than to control their own bodies, to cooperate and collaborate with others. Then such process of collaboration will make them feel that they have to operate, and the operation itself means moving. Of course, for me, I care very much more about safety, so the students need to understand the structure of the body first, and then when they operate with these combinations of bodies, they won't get hurt too easily, or they can execute the movements in a safer range under their control. I would suggest that if teachers want to implement these activities, they really need to take a good look at the scaffolding of their classes and don't give too much instruction all at once. Let the students accomplish an easier goal first. Then, when they find out that they can actually go further with this goal, they will develop their new goals. In fact, if students are very active in learning, we will expect them to go in the direction we want to develop this entire course. Actually, in many incidents, it is the students who are taking the initiatives in pushing you to go further to the next step of teaching. The part you are about to teach, so far so good, but because you put your strength a little bit forward, you should try to do it a little higher. We were actually going to talk about structure today, and usually we will talk about bearings of the weights. But after we practiced the conveyor belt game, I felt that our class is really great because usually the bearing of weight activity requires professional training to play, but our class got addicted to it right away. So naturally they would want to challenge more. If I can carry a load when I lie down, can I stand while carrying a load too? Standing with a load requires some more knowledge of structure, the structure of our body. I remember that day after I completed the game, they asked me directly, and I used my skeleton model as an example, and asked them which part of the body can bear the external weight the most. Where is it, and how would your body know how to make best use of this structure? The student would wonder, can I try to bear the weight? So they wanted to lift someone else up. During the process, they came to realize that actually with the support of physical structure, the tensions of bodies between people would become more relieved. But if you are merely using your brute force to hold up a certain heavy item, it would be a very heavy burden for that person. That is the part I aim to teach them. But I didn't expect that the students took the initiative to ask me about it before I gave my instructions, so I felt quite touched. The second part is the stacking activity, from less to more. I often feel that in such a course, the unexpected is usually the biggest surprise. That is to say, some students might interpret the teacher's expectations on them. And in fact, the students will hope that they can do well, and they will work so hard to achieve the goals that the teacher set out for them. But what if they couldn't achieve the goal? In fact, I think through the teacher's guidance and stimulation, they might develop an even better idea instead. A case on that day was when we were doing the travel around the world exercise. The students all tried not to have similar ideas with others. So when they found out that the location they have chosen was the same as others, they quickly thought that time was running out, and they had rehearsed it for so long, but they didn't want to collide with others' ideas. Therefore, they immediately thought of something else. When they thought of something else, they would find that under such pressure, their new ideas were generated like a spark from a fire. I think that newly generated idea is actually very interesting. Usually at this moment, I won't tell them to throw away what's generated before and just keep the new one. Rather, I would expect them to integrate these ideas. So I would say to them, is it possible to put together this scene with another scene and become a new combination? Then you will see that you just need to throw the question back to them, and they can solve the problem by themselves. So I felt very satisfied with them on that day, because they could really find their own ways to introduce the whole world to us. So in this case, I don't think I'm the only one teaching. We are actually learning together.
You might discover about the level of your flexibility. Maybe your upper body is more flexible, but your lower body is quite stiff, not very nimble. Or even if you can move, your joints feel creaky, like a wooden man. So only when you participate in such an action, in this kind of workshop or performance workshop, you can understand clearly about the characteristics and the strengths of your body. Or you might suddenly find out, actually, you can jump very high, you have good elasticity, or your reflexes are particularly sharp, and so on. So be sure to participate in it yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Shi Fengting. Just speak out your name. Hello, how are you? Not just say hello to everyone. You need to speak out. We train ourselves to speak out so that the others can hear what we are saying. Just pronounce your name clearly. Hello, what my name is, okay? Before this class, actually, we have already done some training, such as vocal and physical training. So in this class, we hope to focus on the expressions of lines in a more complete way. With regard to expressions of lines, there is actually a very important part, that is, emotions. Can you grasp the emotions of the lines? So at the beginning of this course, we actually used a lovely way. Or we can say that we used an existing approach so that students could understand directly what some emotional states were. So I used the animation Inside Out, in which there are 5 well-known characters with names respecting 5 emotions, that is, sadness, joy, anger, and fear, etc. Through a game like this, they could start to compare. I gave them a line, and they drew one emotion from the list of 5. And they used this emotion to express the line I gave them. Since they already had a general idea about the film, they could put themselves into the mood of the line very quickly. Give me a glass of water.
Give me a glass of water. Give me a glass of water.
Give me a glass of water. Give me a glass of water. In fact, there are all kinds of emotions inside of us. No one can always be happy. Have you ever seen a person like this every day? Always happy? Impossible. And then someone who is always angry? No one is forever angry. It's impossible, isn't it? No one is always fearful. Because everyone expresses emotions differently when they encounter different things. Exactly how are these emotions expressed? Sometimes it's through movements and body language, but most of the time it's through verbal language. Then I played another activity later, 2 people sitting on chairs. Then they took turns to speak. At first they said 2 sentences intuitively. When you sit on chair A, you will say a fixed sentence. When you sit on chair B, you will say another fixed sentence. This game was played on by taking turns like this. Actually, in the process of the first round, they were all completely intuitive to speak out. Why are you doing this to me? I don't know what you're talking about. Why are you doing this to me? I don't know what you're talking about.
Why are you doing this to me?
I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, a little louder.
Why are you doing this to me? I don't know what you're talking about.
At the second round, I would bring in the so-called character analysis. That is, why did this person say this line? What might have happened to this person? And I would let them reflect. Then do it all over again, and say these lines again. Then they'll find out that when I say this line just intuitively, or say it with certain context, there may be some differences in the degree of emotions being expressed, or even some differences in feelings. And then I'll lead them to go deeper and deeper, to think about the subtext. For example, when you say something, what are you really thinking about in your mind? Ostensibly, I might be telling you that I hate you so much, but actually in my heart, what I'm thinking is, why are you doing this to break my heart? So I can guide them in to understand about this part. So when they reinterpret the lines, they can present different levels. So this lesson is actually about emotional expression at the beginning. Emotional expression in one sentence, to understand why a character says this sentence, to understand the differences between internal and external expressions, which is a very human and emotional part. And I hope that's how they use the ways to express a certain line, well, to interpret a character like this. Why are you doing this to me?
I really don't know what you're talking about.
Why are you doing this to me? I don't know what you're talking about. Why are you doing this to me?
I don't know what you're talking about. Why on earth you're doing this to me? Why do we have pineapple in the pizza? I don't know what you're talking about. Why are you doing this to me? I don't know what you are talking about.
Good, give them a round of applause. For the performance creation classes, usually the school would arrange only half a year for the course. It's a half school year. So the time for the course is very, very short. Students might have never been exposed to acting, or some might have taken some performing classes before. Maybe some students have already taken the performing art courses. Basically, what we're doing in the former part of the course, before we talk about the lines, we still need to do some exercises, such as vocal and physical training. For example, to develop their voices and their bodies, to let them feel more comfortable to express themselves on the stage, to express their voices, to express their bodies, etc. This, of course, should be arranged before we practice the lines. It's the preparation that the students have to do. And then, after that, as you can see, in our class, the lines were not long at all. Why? Because that is just the basic training. After this class, we will start to have the so-called text. Text is more likely to be longer lines, or a more complete script for students to do some trainings. And at the end, a relatively complete performance can be produced. So it actually would have such a sequence and context from the beginning to the end. We want to show through our body and voice, to be able to express what is in our hearts and to empathize with others. The mother next to her looks very distressed. Is she worried about something? By getting involved and imitating the person, we can get to know more about people. Then you can observe others. You can help others. So you see, the performing art, with its background behind it, and also its relevance, has a lot to do with humanity and human life. Okay, I hope the students would think about why we are doing this, and then you can engage yourself in the practice. You will find your life opened up. Your eyes are opened up, and your heart is opened up too. When your heart opens, your world won't be so small anymore. You can become a character, you can become someone else, and then you won't feel so lonely anymore. I think the 108 curriculum is such a great curriculum, and it will bring changes to the citizens of our future society and make each one of us a better citizen who can better understand oneself and communicate with others more effectively.